This is an extremely exciting episode. I'm inside Anduril's headquarters in Costa Mesa, California. I've been trying to get inside this defense tech hardware company for about a year, and after months of discussions, we are finally making it happen.
The fact that we're sitting in the showroom here at Anduril, a company that's only 8 years old, and this is a product room that would be equivalent to any of the primes that have been around for 100 years. It's because of a bias towards, let's do it, get done, if you will. We're basically on a war footing. Like, people don't think about this, but we are. The last domain that is left open is subsea, period. It's mostly unprotected, is kind of the upshot.
Why, when it is clearly such a wide open, vast risk, has there not been the advances in sea, open water and subsea technology like there has been in air and space?
Yeah, it turns out it's really hard.
In this episode, Shane Arnott explains how Anduril is achieving it when other primes have been unable to, as he delves into every part of its internal processes, from hardware design with military customers to battle testing and manufacturing at scale. Don't work at Anduril though, right?
Hashtag, yeah.
A little more detail today. We are definitely going to be a publicly traded company. We are running this company to be the shape of a publicly traded company.
While defense technology can be unpalatable, it's one of the most in-demand industries, as countries and venture capitalists turn to technology to deter escalation. And in only 8 years, Anduril is at the top of its game, making AI-powered hardware for militaries, including autonomous turbojets, submarines, drone jamming systems, sensor towers, and virtual reality headsets. The company was co-founded by Palmer Luckey, who started and sold Oculus, Brian Schimpf and Trey Stevens, both ex-Palantir, and Joseph Chen and Matt Grimm. One of its largest investors, Peter Thiel's Founders Fund, just led Anduril's $2.5 billion funding round at a $30.5 billion private valuation, more than double its valuation this time last year. And like many of Thiel's associated companies, Anduril has a New Zealand link in its name.
Anduril, a flame of the West, forged from the shards of Narsil.
Plus, the man leading its Maritime division hails from the Pacific. Australian engineer Dr. Shane Arnott previously led Boeing's Phantom Works classified defence division, which included its unmanned aircraft, the Loyal Wingman, MQ-25 Stingray, and MQ-28A Ghost Bat. Now he's going all in on a new domain at Anduril, the sea. This interview takes you behind Anduril's world of underwater warfare. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's really good to be here. I feel like there's going to be a lot of lessons in this interview, but at least the first lesson will be the fact that there is a delineation between the Australian and New Zealand accent, because everyone here thinks I'm Australian. So.
There you go. So is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing to prove the point that they are actually different and they are different countries.
There you go.
But look, you live here now, but I do really want to focus on your career first. And you worked at Boeing. You were there for 23 years. I believe you led their Phantom Works division, projects like Ghost Bat. You were one of their top 50 engineers. What's the main lesson you found going from an incumbent prime into a more modern, younger prime? What do you think is the core unique difference of somewhere like Anduril that allows it to move at probably a faster pace?
Yeah, well, that's a difficult question that's going to get me in trouble, no doubt. But look, I had to re-engineer the way that I thought about risk in particular. That's probably the biggest thing. I think the engineering and the underpinning approaches are all the same. So, how do you build submarines or airplanes? It's all kind of the same. But one of the big opportunities and differences with particularly innovation is that risk appetite. So one of the great things, Boeing is a great company, is synonymous with aerospace. It was a great place to spend a lot of my career. I got to do amazing things, worked around the world, worked on fast jets, satellites, weapons, a whole heap of things. So it was amazing. But the ability to kind of have the time I've had here at Anduril, which is about, I think, coming up to 5 years, is kind of the equivalent of like 20 years somewhere else. And it's really that risk appetite. And the risk appetite to say, let's do it, gives you more opportunities, if you will, as an engineer to have shots on goal. Shots on goal are learnings, the ability to do kind of cool stuff. I mean, the fact that we're sitting in the showroom here at Anduril, a company that's only 8 years old, and this is a product room that would be equivalent to any of the primes that have been around for 100 years. And it's because of that. It's because of a bias towards, let's do it. Let's get shit done, if you will, and the leadership being willing to kind of do that and having to prove themselves as well. Completely different mentality. So for me to rewire my brain, if you will, to go, okay, everything short of, it needs to be safe, we can't hurt anyone, but otherwise go as fast as you need to go. Engage with whoever you need to, focuses on the warfighter and the mission and getting things done quicker. And that's just a sign of the times here. We're basically on a war footing. Like, people don't think about this, but we are, as the West. So you kind of got to adopt to the times, right, and move quicker. So Anduril, at least to me, presented that opportunity as just a simple engineer to kind of come and have a crack at things and have more shots on goal. So
I think it's important to discuss that geopolitical situation up front early. How does being an Australian from the Pacific down under and the real life threat of that potentially becoming a theatre of war in the future, potentially, fuel and motivate your work here? Is it something that you think about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in Australia's neighbourhood, like everything that's happening, everything that's going down. And as a nation, tracking it back, I guess personally, one of the attractions of the United States is there's just so much money to go after the problems, if you will. Like, the DoD spends more than anyone else does. And then the close partnership with Australia, so my ability to kind of come here and work on the problems, but then also influence things back home as well. It's just kind of the right combination to get things done. All things being equal, would I rather be in Brisbane or Sydney? Sure. But California's not terrible either. But that opportunity, if you will, back home just isn't as great to kind of work on the bigger problems, the bigger projects, just because there's just not the budget, in Australia or New Zealand that there is in the United States.
Don't we know it? Let's focus on maritime as the new domain that you're really focused on here, including the 2 subs behind you. And we will talk about Ghost Shark out of Australia as well. But just kind of scale the problem and the solution for us. How protected, or perhaps not protected, would you say that the waters surrounding the US, Australia, and by default New Zealand are currently? And what is the existing technological line of defence that's in play?
Yeah, it's mostly unprotected, is kind of the upshot. So you have a look at all the domains that are available for warfighting, if you will, and the space domain, the air domain, the surface and the ground. Pretty much all of those are contested now. So, and we're talking about China in particular. So the Chinese have been very deliberate in their strategy to create what's called an anti-access area denial strategy. It's to keep people out of their influence. And the way they've done that is they put satellites in space, they've built more aircraft, they've got more ships at sea, they're
drones.
They're doing laps around Australia and New Zealand, recently with some destroyers. Absolutely, uncontested. They're putting carrier groups around Taiwan regularly, type thing. The last domain that is left open is subsea, period. And we're in an air-sea battle with China. It's a very big country, and the waterfront literally is very large. And the last door that's open to get in and get out is subsea. And you think about it, so subsea today is primarily these very big, expensive, exotic submarines that are billions of dollars each. And they're crewed with, very brave women and men who do this, but they're in very, very small numbers. Even the United States, very small numbers. And the Pacific's a very big bathtub. So it's an obvious domain to utilise unmanned, uncrewed systems like these. But for various reasons, that just hasn't happened. So that's kind of a big part of the mission that we're on here to fix that, if you will.
I'm interested or intrigued in what those reasons are. Why, when it is clearly such a wide open, vast risk, has there not been the advances in sea, open water and subsea technology like there has been in air and space.
Yeah, it turns out it's really hard. And that's honestly it. So I call it kind of the grand challenge, if you will, for autonomy. So in the air domain, and I had the opportunity to work on the Loyal Wingman or the GoSpat program a million years ago. Super exciting, going Mach whatever, super fast at 30,000 feet, very exciting. Relatively easy. You're up in open air domain, you've got line of sight communications, RF communications, like we're streaming Netflix across the air to your phone.
Even to space now.
Right.
We're going beyond that, yeah.
So that kind of helps when you're talking to a robot and you're a human. To be able to communicate with it is good. There's these satellites that go around the planet, they're called GPS, tells you where you are, very useful for the robot to know where they are, et cetera, et cetera. As soon as you go below the waves, you've got no GPS, communication sucks, and then the domain, so the environment, the ocean, wants to consume you.
It's salty, there's creatures.
Yeah, stuff grows on it. So one of the biggest issues is a thing called biofouling for these systems that are behind me, where if you're staying still for too long, things start growing on you in the subsea. So, we'll have this biofouling, so, biological structures go around the things that move, like your propeller that, or your prop that moves you around, or doors that may open and close, and that kind of stops your ability to be useful. So this is like very, very difficult, as opposed to, if you're in the desert in California, you can stay out on the runway for as long as you want. If you stay still in the ocean for a week, you may not be able to move again. It's very, very difficult.
The major use cases in, I think, all weapon systems would be surveillance and strike power. Can you talk me through the product suite that Anduril has or is currently developing and what it serves on the surveillance versus strike front?
Yeah, so in the maritime domain, so we started, and maybe I'll use a history here. So we started with the vehicle here, that's the large displacement vehicle. So it's primarily set up to do the reconnaissance and intelligence kind of mission. And you can see on the side here, it's got a side-looking sonar system that maps the seabed. So we can go anywhere on the planet to any depth, to the full sea floor, and find out what's down there. So it's kind of useful. It's a free flooded architecture, so that gives us the ability to go as deep as we want to go, and affordably as well. So that's that system. With the XL, this guy's basically a truck.
It's like a bus.
It's literally the size of a bus, and in fact gets as big as a subway car, if you will.
So they get bigger than that?
Much bigger. So in length, so it extends in length. So the nose and the tail are the same, but it can get longer and longer. And the whole idea is like it can grow in such that it's about the size of a 40-foot ISO container in the middle. So you can imagine there's lots of stuff that you could put in that and take anywhere on the planet that's got water.
You're talking strike.
So it could be anything. So I can't talk about the missions that we're currently doing with the Ghost Shark. But with the Dive XL, we did talk about a new product that we have, which is actually behind you and the viewers can't see it. So that's called the Copperhead. So Copperhead is a very fast, small diameter AUV that has a flexible payload. That flexible payload could be a munition. Put that together, some people call them torpedoes. So this gives us the ability that torpedoes are in very small numbers. As the West, we struggle to build low hundreds of these a year.
Interesting.
So in a similar approach to what we've done in other domains, we've got another product called Barracuda, which is designed to fix a similar issue in the air domain for cruise missiles. So this particular system is something that could fit in the Dive XL, and we have the ability we've got a very large one that's called the Copperhead 500, and we've got a smaller one, it's called the Copperhead 100. We can fit 24 Copperhead 100s in one Dive XL, just to give you a sense on, as a mothership, what it can carry.
And just to clarify, all the subs are autonomous?
All autonomous. Yeah, you've got nowhere to fit in there that you won't make it home, let's say. I was
going to say, if that's going to the seabed floor, I'm not going with it.
Yeah, don't want to do that.
I want to understand the why behind the development of each of these products, specifically in the maritime division. it feels like the gaps are so obvious and clear that it probably is quite easy to pinpoint them and say, even on torpedoes, we don't develop enough, so let's make one faster at scale. But is there a perhaps feedback loop there with navies around the world, or even just with other military domains where they're telling you what they want? How does that work, an operation here at Anduril?
So we've raised many billions of dollars, which gives us the ability to invest that money in things that we have conviction in. And we can do that ahead of a requirement from a customer. But yeah, we're not crazy. So we do that very much talking to our customers, where it's hey, we think this is a problem. We're seeing these issues with the war stocks being low, the ability to replenish them. If there was a shooting war, would be, we'd literally run out of, arrows to be shot within days. Do you think that's a problem? Customer goes, yes, this is a problem. Would you be interested in this if we had a thing that was about this size or that size, or could do this, do that? So we very much work collaboratively in that regard. And we typically, for our first of product, we have a lead customer, if you will. So for the LD that's here, we're working with the US Navy on that, with the Dive XL. The Ghost Shark in particular is done with the Australian Navy. So we'll work with a launch customer, if you will, that kind of shapes then the product. Product is then what goes in the factory that we then sell to everyone else. So.
I do want to talk about the manufacturing, specifically supply chain, scale and affordability. But first I kind of just want your thoughts on exotic advantage versus scale. And ultimately, what do you think wins in a battlefield context? Is it pure production velocity and number and scale of arsenal, or is it actual technological advantage that makes one win a war?
It's a great question. So it's both, is kind of the upshot. So you can't just turn up with a bunch of junk, but more junk than everyone else and win. Not going to work. You can't just turn up with super exotic things, so Virginia-class submarines and F-35s and things like that even the most powerful manufacturing nation in the world, the United States, can't achieve. It's really the combination. So everything that we've built is very much complementary in nature. So Ghost Shark is designed to work with the manned submarines. A lot of these other weapons are designed to be used in volleys together. So with the expensive weapon, you send some of the cheaper weapons, if you will, to make the more a greater success for the more expensive weapon to hit the target and have its intended effect. So it really is that combination, and Ukraine has kind of shown that as well. So while there's a lot of, hey, let's show the DJI drone doing the thing, in reality, it's not just that. It's really a combination of effects that they're bringing to bear. So it's not just one or the other. Now, that said, we believe that a lot of the exotic systems that are there are actually pretty good, and they can be the quarterback in the American term to the rest of our systems that are the rest of the players in the field, if you will. So
it's a good point you make on DJI, and that is, in the China context, a clear dual use case where something that was made for the commercial market, their commercial drones, has now been applied to a warfare context. We've seen that with ships and the scale of shipbuilding as well. What kind of dual use does the maritime products and weapon systems that you're making here at Anduril, are there some use cases there?
You've been doing some good research that about the passenger ferries and stuff like that. Yeah, good job. Look, there's a lot of technology, particularly under the skins of our vehicles. So a lot of the compute technology is commercial, that's been militarized, if you will, or adapted to the harsh environments. A lot of the manufacturing techniques we're using actually got pioneered with automotive. So we try to move away from aerospace techniques, and I worked for a wonderful aerospace company, got to work with some of the most expensive robots you can imagine. That doesn't scale, whereas other industries like automotive are very good at building thousands of things. So how do you bring the best of? So we've got a bunch of folks from Tesla and other areas where we can bring that thinking, which is kind of the manufacturability, if you will. And then with that, you're kind of more open to commercial technologies to bring that together. Now, this is non-trivial, and this is kind of where our expertise is. How do you get the right balance? Because you can't just buy a bunch of stuff down at, Radio Shack or Harvey Norman or whatever and bring it together. You actually do need to still select very carefully, still need to put it through all the qualification tests, So before we send this to the bottom of the ocean, you want to find out before you send it to the bottom of the ocean that it's fit for doing that.
Tell us more about the battle testing operation. I understand you're a scuba diver.
Oh.
Do you get in there sometimes with
You're
them?
freaking me out,
and
Madison.
we do good research on this show, Shane. I'm glad you're impressed. But I also understand, I think it was this specific one, Dive LD, did like a single 100-hour long voyage as a test. Like, talk me through the real battle testing that you put these things through
So
first.
we have an approach, and it's show me, don't tell me.
I like it.
So you're putting stuff out there for real, particularly in the maritime space. You know, this vessel is a multi-week vessel. This one's a multi-month.
Wow.
That just means there's a lot of testing. So you're not going to find it out on real operations with the customer. You've got to find that out in advance. So we have a lot of teams. They're called mission operations within Anduril, and they are people who go out both in the real warfight, but also in the test and evaluation phase. And we just kind of find out by doing. Again, it's back to this shots on goal. So we're building, we're taking it out, we're doing a lot of these things. You find where the bugs are as well. You rinse, you repeat, you get to good, better. So that's the basis of the idea.
It's a pretty cool gig.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
Don't work at Anduril though, right?
Hashtag, yeah.
Back to the point of scale, supply chains are critical in that context. And I do want to talk about onshoring of manufacturing, but just in the engineering, design and development process, how do you consider supply chains within that context to allow for scale, to ensure that you're not hamstrung by certain areas in the world that may be fragile or in the future hostile too?
Yeah, great question. So it's kind of multi-factored. So every time, we call it DFM, so design for manufacture. So every time the engineers consider a part, like whether it's a fastener, a skin, an electronic part, you know, something that's high grade, whatever it is, we need to make sure that we can do it at scale. Because this is actually a challenge for us. It's a little bit different. So if you come from a Boeing and you're super excited that you're building 100 of these things, supply chain's less of a worry. Whereas at Anduril, we don't care about 100 of things, like thousands, tens of thousands, right? So in the selection of the supply chain, that's kind of really a key thing. So we need to get to know Madison Industries, and we go, okay, if we were to give you a blank check, how would you scale? What do you need? What are the blockers? Oh, we've got this crazy robot that comes from the fjords in Norway or something, and they can only build one every 10 years because of some, diamond cutter that's in it or something. This is partially a true story. It's like, oh, okay, can't use that. So there's that part of it. And then there's particularly the country of origin issue. So this has been a big thing in unmanned technologies, primarily in the electronics.
And magnets as well.
Magnets. Turns out Chinese, really good at technology. Electronics in particular. You want to get something cheap, you go there. So a lot of these companies, and we got into this very early, and a big credit to Palmer Luckey, who's one of our founders, was like, he was super hard on, hey, we're not adopting Chinese parts. And this was before the US government said anything about it. So we had a particular internal project, had a code name, the whole thing, where we went through all of our BOM, our bill of materials. And then we went next level down into our tier 2 supply chain, asked them the same questions.
Wow, you went that deep.
Yeah. And just kind of making sure that it wasn't like something was masked because, we're buying a major component, but they're 90% Chinese. And look, a bunch of those companies had this issue. Instead of kind of going, oh my God, we can't work with you anymore, we said, okay, let's set up a program. We're going to step you through it. Hey, we can supply gyros from somewhere else, and there's this other Japanese source instead of the Chinese source. Let's work through that. Hey, can we onshore something here in the US or in another AUKUS country like the UK or Australia? What's that look like? And the governments were like, hey, this is like a super grown-up thing to do for, at the time, fairly small company. But again, we're on a war footing. So if you just kind of fast forward, so we're on a war footing, supply chains get cut off really early, we can't deliver products into the fight, who's the fool, right? So you don't want to wait for the, government to come out with regulations. It was the right thing to do, so yeah.
That has happened now. There are all incentives to onshore manufacturing,
right.
Especially of critical systems. So great that you were early on that deep vertical integration, but so many companies in the manufacturing space now are battling with trying to do that secondary.
Yeah.
How hard is it to onshore manufacturing, including components of not only critical systems, but everything that is consumed in, say, America or other places like Australia and New Zealand? Is it actually difficult, or is it just a lack of desire to put patriotism before profitability?
Getting out in front of it's a big issue. I think, particularly in the defence and military domain, there's so many inherent benefits of, the sovereignty or being within the bubble of friends. So AUKUS, for instance, that, we were able to, as part of that project that I talked about, go back to the customer and say, hey, look, this might be 1 to 5% more expensive, but here's the guarantee of supply as a result of that. And they're just like, yeah, of course, that's fine. Then there's the ability of, having a little bit more to play with, or, there was investments that we made or we worked with. For instance, we did this on the Go Shark program. We, in effect, worked with the Australian government. We got some grants set up. Now, that was specifically for Australian companies. And as a result, got them ready by buying, extra robots, extra testing capabilities that weren't in country to get it ready to build submarines. Because last time Australia built submarines was never. I
was going to say, have they ever built submarines? Right. It's like, my history on that's not good, but I'd be surprised if we ever did.
Yeah, maybe welded some parts, but the point being, like, if you're going to do that. So in America, a lot of it was a similar kind of story, if you will, that some of that might was just pushed offshore for various monetary reasons in other industries. Whereas for defence, that's vitally important now. With the Trump administration, it's become important for all industries with the policies. So that's kind of made everyone come into alignment, if you will, with that. But ultimately it benefits, from that warfighter standpoint, the guarantee of supply. And it does kind of work out. They were very incremental savings, to be honest. Now, I will say the gap between, for electronics, for Western to Chinese parts is still very significant. Again, they're just very good at that. But for everything else, there's a way. So that's what we've been doing.
I find the incentives that you put in place in Australia really interesting, and I wonder if you think more of those are needed, or perhaps there's other mechanisms in mind to make specifically Australia and New Zealand, our countries, better at manufacturing at scale. Because while we do rockets and aircraft, we largely suck at scale and doing things in large amounts. Is there anything you think that would help fix that?
Yeah, look, I think, and we were talking before, the innovative spirit in New Zealand is insane. Like, as a function of per capita, is probably best in the world. New Zealand and Israel probably, doing interesting stuff. Yeah, look, I think with innovation and maybe to tell the story of Go Shark and the Loyal Wingman Ghostbat was moving fast is more valuable than anything, particularly for tech industry and innovators. And both New Zealand and Australia represent opportunities to go quickly. So you've got very thin decision layers, and you've got ambitious kind of folks, and you tend to have a lot of space as well. Like, Australia's a big country with low population density. New Zealand's a smaller country with an even smaller population density, but from an unmanned and uncrewed system standpoint, there's actually a lot of space to test these things and to film movies on Lord of the Rings, right? To do all these things. So I think one of the things I talk to business leaders in Australia and to decision makers is, because they'll complain, we don't have the money, we don't have the this. You've got the environment to move fast, have the courage to do it. Because in the United States, it is so big here. Yes, there's a lot of money, but it is very broad church. It kind of means that decision making takes kind of a long time. And we've experienced this on the Go Shark program, the ability to go super fast, just because there's been almost a zero layer between us and the end user with the warfighter, has made for a better product for us. And this is one of our leading projects as a result, from on speed, on budget, faster than schedule. We delivered some things early, which is unheard of, but we're able to do that in large part, not because we're smarter and better looking than everyone, but it was a shorter decision cycle with the customer. So that's very highly valued. So for Australia and New Zealand, don't have that much money, But if you kind of embrace the fact that there's just less people to convince, you've got a bit of courage to go faster, that entrepreneurial spirit, amazing things can be done. And I think New Zealand in particular is a great example of that. So.
On Gulf Shark, which I've been told is your baby, Shane, are you having any discussions with the New Zealand Defence Force?
I can't say anything about any other customers that we're talking to.
And just on the name Ghost Shark, did that have any relation to Ghost Bat from your time at Boeing?
Who knows? The customer make these decisions.
We're getting into classified territory now, are we?
Possibly. There you go.
Well, that was everything I needed. That was such a good chat. Thank you so much. Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Thanks for watching Markets with Madison. If you enjoyed this interview, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. I do all of the research for these episodes myself, so your support means a lot. I always love to hear your feedback and ideas, so please drop any thoughts in the comments below. Now go put your money to work.